Hello BookTube, I am the Book Mage, welcome back to my channel, and to a really small wrap up. Insomnia is kicking my ass right now. Or it was. I think I've gotten over it, touch wood. But as a consequence of it being January and depressing and me not being able to sleep and therefore having like no energy, I've kind of been like a zombie for at least 2 weeks of January. And also the book choices are the book choices. It's been mediocre at best. So I have, unfortunately, so far this year, only read 2 books, which is not great. Last year, I feel like January was a really good, like, strong reading month for me. It was a really good start to the year. I'm not feeling great about this one. But I'm coming to talk to you about 2 books anyway, so we're just gonna make the best of it. I mean, I've tried to be, like, aesthetic to match one of the books. Like, I've even got, like, these cute fairy earrings on. Like, I tried. I only have bat necklaces. I have no fairy necklaces, it's bats only, but, like, I've tried. So, with that said, getting into the books, the first book that I read in January was Emily Wilde's Encyclopaedia of Faeries by Heather Fawcett. So, the reason I picked this one up was because it was the monthly pick for the Goth Girl Book Club that my friends and I unofficially started. I'm not gonna lie, I've not been the biggest fan of the picks so far, but like, they will rue the day they let me pick, I'll tell you that now. So I feel like this book has been quite popular, so like I wasn't too mad about picking it up. This is actually one of the few Fairy Loot editions that I got that I said I probably would read for myself and that like I didn't put in the read it or unhaul it style challenge. I do still think the love interest's name is ridiculous, but we'll get to that. So if you haven't heard yet at this point, because this book has been quite popular, this follows a woman called Emily Wilde, who is like a fairy researcher. And she has made her way to this very small, remote, like freezing cold northern town. Pretty sure it's set on like a remote island. And she's going to be undertaking the last part of her research before publishing like her research papers and her magnum opus, which is her Encyclopaedia of Faeries. And in a possibly not so welcome twist, she ends up being joined by her academic rival. So the basic premise is kind of her studying out in the field and interacting with the locals and sniping some banter back and forth between like her and her rival. It's fairies, it's cozy fantasy. It's not as cozy fantasy as I'd expected it to be, but I can't think of any other cozy fantasy that I have read, so maybe this is just what cozy fantasy is like. I thought it would be cozier. I feel like my ultimate thoughts about this one is that I found it slow but enjoyable. I liked a lot of the things that it did, I just wasn't enthralled. I wasn't really hooked at any point. I do like the way that the Fae are portrayed in this. It's like a much more traditional, like folkloric kind of Fae. It's a little bit whimsical, a little bit nonsensical. I like that vibe. I like that that's the direction that it took. I'm not massively sold on any of the characters yet. Like, I don't dislike anyone. It's probably not a surprise to say that I think I ended up giving this a 3 stars, maybe like a 3.5 or a 3.25, maybe like a 3.25. I enjoyed certain aspects of this, but I did find it kind of slow going and a bit meandery, and there wasn't really a plot, which I think is sometimes the case in cozy fantasy. Like, I knew what Emily was there for and like I knew her goals, and I do quite like, we were discussing this at Goth Girl Book Club, and I can't really discuss the spoilers, which is where I think most of the good things that I had to say came in, but some of the interactions between Emily and Wendell Bambleby, I'm never getting over it. They were quite amusing, they were quite funny. I probably am going to go on and read book 2. I feel like this is enjoyable enough, and it's not the kind of thing I would normally pick up. It's just I definitely have to be in the mood for this, so I think I am going to be purchasing book 2 when it comes out, probably in like a matching special edition, because I'm hoping it has like more mushroom pages, because god, I need more mushroom pages in my life. So I probably will continue on with book 2, and I don't know if this is a duology or a trilogy or a longer series, who knows. I feel like now that I know more like what the book and the vibe and the story is kind of like, if I were to pick up book 2 at a time when that's what I wanted, I feel like I'd probably enjoy it a lot more. Whereas this is the first book of the year, I feel like I need something like a bit more punchy, a bit more PC, and this just wasn't it. So I didn't enjoy it as much as I probably could have. But I also did have insomnia, so I feel like any book I read at the start of January maybe would not have fared the best. I mean, so far it's doing better than any other Fairy Loot book, so I can't complain too much. Okay, and the next one I'm not going to talk about too long either, because I do have a whole vlog for this next book, which is Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb. This one was a Goldspur special edition, so like again it's very pretty, and this one I did put in the read it or unhaul it challenge, and it happened to be the first book picked. The reason I put it in the jar was because the basic premise of this book has one of the 2 main characters is a dragon, but like trapped in the form of a human man. And that's not how I like my dragons, if we're being honest. I like my dragons to be big, scary, like, sky fire lizard things. So, just being just some ginger guy, not off to a strong start. I think what I discovered reading this, if you've seen the video, but if you haven't, basically, I should have DNF'd this. It ended up coming out at like a complete 3 stars, which I feel like if I'd picked this for myself, maybe I would have stuck it through, but it had a lot of potential. It just didn't do enough for me personally that I enjoyed. The basic kind of premise is that this dragon gets like accidentally teleported through to the world of the non-binary main character, and in that world the dragon gets stuck in the form of a human man, and they're kind of like fated, like bonded to the other main character whose name is Arcady, I think. So the dragon and Arcady are like bonded. Arcady is meant to like be their rider. It's like a soul bond magic thing. But they don't actually start interacting till like 100 pages into the book, which was just not doing it for me. It is kind of like a bit like a slow burn romance. Arcady is a thief and there is like a heist aspect to this book, but again, it took so long to get to that point and it just didn't really have enough payoff. I don't feel like any of the good aspects of this had enough payoff for the amount of time it took to actually get to like any of the interesting points. It was a lot of back and forth, a lot of umming and ahhing, and I feel like there's a lot of world building going on, but not in a way that feels realistic or cohesive. It feels interesting. Like if I were to encounter this as like a one-off tabletop RPG session or something, or like a short video game that focused more on like gameplay rather than story, then I could enjoy like these little tidbits and things that you get sprinkled throughout the book. But some of it I don't feel like was relevant for the amount of payoff it got, or like the way it shaped or interacted with the world, because for the most part this feels like a very generic kind of fantasy world, just with like some little intricacies sprinkled in. I do kind of like wrap up most of like my full thoughts in the little vlog. You can honestly just skip to the end if you want to hear more about it. But yeah, I just feel like it was too slow. There wasn't enough payoff. I wasn't like a massive fan of the characters. I kind of didn't really gel with the world building either. So, and I'm sad because like it's a pretty book and it has dragons in it. Well, supposedly it does, but the dragons were like my least favourite part of this. It scrapes a 3 stars maybe. If you make me rant about it enough, it might drop, but like, for now, it's a 3 star. So, there you go. Those were the 2 books that I read in January. I am like 200 pages into another book by now, so I have read a whole nother 200 pages in January, and it's like finally a book that I've picked myself, and it's a big, chunky, adult, Norse-inspired, grimdarky kind of realistic fantasy. I mean, maybe things are looking up. But yeah, sadly not the best start to the year, if we're being honest. And not a whole lot read. But I don't know, I was a zombie for 2 weeks, so like, it is what it is. So, thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far, leave me like a little mushroom emoji, and let me know if you've read anything so far this year, maybe like your best book. Hopefully not your worst book already this time of year, but maybe just getting it out of the way soon. I mean, hopefully it's uphill from here. So, that is it from me, and hopefully I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!